Good day, everyone. Today we'll discuss about the existence of God. Saint Thomas Aquinas says that there are five proofs of God's existence. To answer the question about the existence of God, Saint Thomas Aquinas formulates five ways or proof of his notable works in Summa Theologica. These ways or proof through an evidence from man's experience in the world that influenced by Aristotle in his concept of the four causes. The first argument formulated by St. Thomas Aquinas is the argument from motion. After observing object in motion, he was convinced that whatever is currently in motion were once at rest, but had changed states when it was moved by something else. And was something else once at rest as well, but was also moved by something else. This line of thoughts will go on and on until it forms an almost infinite series of concurrent events where the object were both movers and moved. If this series of events needed something to begin the movement, it is logically to say that at the very beginning of this infinite series is the first mover, which starts the movement. According to St. Thomas Aquinas, the first mover is the unmoved mover, which is quite similar to the idea of Aristotle about the prime mover. The mover as one that is not caused or moved by anything other than itself, and Aquinas believed it is God. The second argument is the argument from causation. It is built by Aristotle's concept on the efficient cause. The main idea on this is that every object, action, and event, according to Aristotle, it has an efficient cause, or an entity or event responsible for its creation or change. It is like the baby that has an efficient cause from their parents and the reference to their parents and to their grandparents, and so on and so forth. Aquinas uses this example on dependent relationship to show that every person or object in the world depends on the Creator, and the Creator has its own Creator and has its own efficient cause. This cycle is considered an argument from motion that can go infinitely, and Aquinas says that it should not be so, since in the first place the series would not have begun. It is logical to assume that at the very beginning there is the existence of the first maker or the uncaused cause. Is the efficient cause is not caused by others or anything but itself. The uncaused cause attributed by Aquinas to the Christian God. The third argument is the argument from contingency. It necessitates the distinction between the necessary and the possible beings. Possible beings are beings that can be created or corrupted, or are beings that can exist or not exist. Example of this is a man. It is a possible being because we have the potential to exist at birth, and at the same time we have the potential to not exist at death. Plants and animals and other structure belongs to these possible beings. With this in mind, it is then reasonable to think that since most beings in the world are possible beings, then there must have been a time that they had not existed at all, which means that nothing ever existed. If there's a time of pure non-existence, then nothing could currently exist because nothingness can only yield nothingness. Saint Thomas Aquinas believed that if there was a being that already exists despite the nothingness of the possible being, this being is called necessary beings. Therefore, necessary beings are beings that necessarily exist, or are beings that cannot be non-existent. For Aquinas, there must be at least one necessary to exist at the very beginning for the rest of the beings to be able to exist. And Aquinas believed that it is God. The fourth argument is the argument from degrees of perfection. This argument makes use of man's knowledge of perfection and his tendency to judge or evaluate whether an object or person is more or less perfect. And in judging something to be more or less perfect, then there is a standard that is used to the said evaluation. And the question is, how could man ever have such standards unless there is a being that is all perfect to compare it to? Aquinas affirmed the existence of such perfect being, and then in any other being will be compared or evaluated for such perfection, then there will be also be judged as less perfect. Aquinas says that it is a perfect God. The fifth and the last argument that St. Thomas Aquinas formulated in his five proofs of God's existence is the argument from final causes or design. Some scholars call it a teleological argument. St. Thomas Aquinas drew on the notions of causality as presented by Aristotle to justify his argument. The final cause, according to Aristotle, is the fourth cause, which means the end that for the sake of which the thing is done. Some scholar believes or describe this argument as the cause that refers to the purpose of which the specific object or entity has been created to fulfill. Men and some other entities are designed to have a purpose, and we behave or act according to that purpose. For instance, bird's wings is designed to behave in accordance with its design, which allow it to fly, and men talk using their mouth. This is in accordance with their body's design, which allow them to utilize air in various muscles in their body to create sounds. For St. Thomas Aquinas, if there is some sort of design that is set in our world, then there must be a designer. The designer cannot possibly just be humans or natural beings themselves. For Aquinas, humans, as imperfect and not intelligent enough to set such a grand design. The natural beings, St. Thomas Aquinas tells us, are not even capable enough to know what their end is. The design of the world must have been set by a being that is vastly more intelligent than humans and knowledgeable enough to guide them towards their end. And of course, it is God. In some other aspect, theologians discuss the nature of God and use philosophical tools to define and understand the concept of divinity and religion. The growth of Christianity has greatly influenced the development of theology, and various Christian philosophers have put forth their ideas on the nature of God. For humans, we have different beliefs. For the theism, it is a belief in the existence of God or several deities. For monotheism, they believes in a single God. We have different characteristics of monotheism. First is omniscience, or God is all-knowing. Omniscience is the capacity to know everything. In monotheistic religions, such as Theism and Abrahamic religions, this is an attribute of God. In Jainism, omniscience is an attribute that any individual can eventually attain. In Buddhism, there are differing beliefs about omniscience among different schools. Next is omnipotence, or God is all-powerful. Omnipresence, God is ever-present. And benevolence, God is perfectly good, just, and all-loving. Another one is divine simplicity. All attributes are integrated and embodied by Him. God is not just good, He is goodness itself. Another one is eternal. God is timeless and has no beginning and end. Studies in natural theology have given rise to several arguments on the existence of God. First, the ontological argument contends that since man, a rational being, is able to conceive the notion of a supreme being, then it holds the reason that such supreme being exists. Next is the concept of God and divinity. In the revealed theology, the study of God through the analysis of sacred texts, the natural theology employed reason to substantiate the existence of God. The teleological argument focuses on the purpose of God would play in the universe. It argues that the Supreme Being is necessary for the continued existence of an orderly but complex universe. In cosmological argument, takes into account the nature of existence and the universe and recognizes the existence of God as an explanation of how things come to being in our reality. For Gottfried Leibniz, principles of sufficient reason, the existence of the universe, therefore, must have an explanation, and the only sufficient explanation is the existence of God. For Dr. Abdul Kalam, on Kalam cosmological argument, everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause. Lil al-Kalam, Science of Discourse, the Arabic term for a discipline of philosophical theology in Islam. For William Sorley, on moral argument, holds that man's ethical nature is brought about by the existence of God. God is the presentation of the greatest ideal, the greatest good, and it is from Him that all standards of goodness are based. For some other viewpoint of other distinct group, in theism is the viewpoint or belief in the existence of God or deities. In agnosticism, a view which considers metaphysical concepts such as God to be inherently unknowable. In atheism, the rejection or non-belief in the existence of God or any deity. The question is, if God really exists, what is his role in our lives? In our religion, we believe in redemptive salvation. God plays a central role as it is through him that saving faith is reflected. Another one is the divine providence. God takes an active role in the human condition.